Hi, and welcome to Tabletop Warden. Today is a very special occasion, not only because it's the second video in English in a row, I guess that's awesome for us, but because we have a very nice guest at our site, and that is Fabio Cury. Fabio, hi, welcome to our channel again. Hi.
Hey guys, thanks for having me here. I'm really excited to be back at Tabletop Warden after so many years.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
it's an honor. It's an absolute honor for us. So thanks, thanks for making yourself available, being here, talking with us about a couple of topics.
Hmm.
So just in case anybody who happens to stumble about on this channel doesn't know who you are, so maybe some of the new viewers or whatever, would you care to just briefly introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. I'm Fabio Cury. I'm a Brazilian game designer and developer. I've worked for 7 years already as a game designer and developer, but 10 years in the gaming industry as a whole. Uh, that way back when, 10 years ago, I started as a BI analyst for like Ubisoft. It doesn't really matter, but I think it gave me like a little bit of an understanding of how games are a product and so on. Then I started at CMON a little bit over 7 years ago as a junior game developer. I quit the other job I had at the time and just went there to start from scratch a career because they said they saw potential in me, and I said, okay, let's make that bet. And luckily it paid off. I stayed at CMON for 7 years. I recently just left and started working at Loot Studios, but I'll talk about them soon. But at
Hmm.
CMON, I worked as a developer for a Song of Ice and Fire tabletop miniatures game for all those 7 years, and also eventually started working on the game design for that game. I've also, the difference there being game development is more focused on game balance, assuring that the game is fun and readable, whereas game design is um, having the ideas and developing the systems where these ideas can be implemented, right? So the abilities and so on. And I've worked in both these capacities on many other projects, including Massive Darkness 2, Bloodborne, the board game, God of War, the board game, and the card
Oh
game,
wow, okay.
A Song of Ice and Fire Tactics.
Right.
I'm missing like Marvel Zombies, also, of course, how could I forget? And many more. I really
Right.
have done
So
over 10 games at this point.
right, but many of which were Michael was then like the lead designer, or it sounded like Bloodborne, I think, was Michael Chanel and a few others you've mentioned, right?
Yes, many
So
of these I've worked very closely with Michael Schnall, either as in him with the capacity of lead designer, and then me as co-designer, or me as lead developer to his design. Um, we've I've also worked with other board game designers, such as Eric Lang,
Right.
um,
mm,
Alex Olteanu, Marco Portugal, which is an amazing game designer. We worked together not only in Massive Darkness 2, but also in Cthulhu Death May Die, where he
Oh,
was
yeah, I
the
love
lead
that game.
developer of that game, and I worked as it's not an assistant, right? It's just developer, right? I'm just not taking the lead, but
yeah,
um, which I learned a lot. And including in that project, even Rob Davio from Pandemic Legacy
right,
and all these other
yeah,
games.
Mm.
Um,
he's a legend, absolutely,
he's
Yeah,
yeah.
a legend.
indeed.
I didn't interface
Uh,
with him much because I was like very junior at the time, but I read the emails, and I guess I learned a lot there.
That counts. That still
yeah,
counts.
absolutely. And I gotta say, Eric Lang is probably one of my favorite designers. So he's yeah, absolute legend as well. That's cool. So I mean, you've worked with the greats basically when it comes to game design. Absolutely.
Some big
There's
names, yeah, most
yeah,
definitely.
absolutely.
Yeah, but I
Yeah.
do like to say I'm from the Michael Chanel School of Game Design because of how many projects we've done
Yeah,
together, and especially because of our 7 year time together in A Song of Ice and Fire, which did really forge me into the game designer I am, like my
Mm,
style of thinking and reasoning.
mm,
Um, and also, like, it's hard to mention a few names and then not mention many other names, but yeah,
Sure.
Olivier Zanfirescu,
yeah.
we did Song of Ice and Fire Tactics together, and he's also the designer of Dust, the
Oh, okay.
miniature war game, right? By Hakam
Mm.
Studios, I think, uh, originally way back
Yeah,
when.
already. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Exactly.
But they've been along. Like FFG did one, and so
Yes. Yeah, but like you mentioned, you were the lead designer at one point for Song of Ice and Fire, right? And then you also were like the lead developer back before that. Um, like there's a question I wanted to ask you, like, do you still play Song yourself in your free time? Not you are not any longer with CMON. I think we should mention that again. And you and Michael especially, you guys were like the face of A Song of Ice and Fire back then for the entire community. Do you like still read the news about the game? Do you like still play it in your free time? So what is your um let's say connection to Song at this point?
so let's say once again, I just started working at Loot Studios in
Yeah.
January, and I'm sorry, in November. Time flies, but um, uh, I took a vacation of Song of Ice and Fire when I left. Right, 7 years where even if you
Yeah.
don't feel like it, you have to play and you have to read the
Mm,
news. It is a little bit. It can get to you a little bit through the time,
understandable.
but it's interesting you ask me that, because now I'm interested again in the Song of Ice and Fire, because I really do enjoy the game, and I feel like I can start now participating, because the things that I knew and I was involved with have either been released, like the Brotherhood Without Banners. I think
Hmm.
that's been released, right?
Yeah, it
Right.
is.
It
It
is.
is.
It
Yeah.
is.
And so, like, kind of the last things that I was still working on have um have have been done, so everything is now going to be new to me, and I can be on the other side, as a
Right.
player,
Yeah.
which is a whole different experience, because the designers and the developers are never playing one version, right? They're playing the old version, the current version, the new one, and the possible new one that we're gonna throw in the garbage soon, that will never see the light of day.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
True.
and so you don't really have time to, like, enjoy the list building. You're always focused on possible outcomes or what you can actually change to improve the game, because good players don't necessarily make good game designers,
Mm,
and good game designers are not necessarily good players.
Hmm.
And so I think I'm an average player, really, at most. So I can finally enjoy. That's mostly what I mean.
right.
And I would love to play a game on TTS with you guys any day.
That
Awesome.
would be an honor. I mean, but being a game designer, is that something that you can never totally switch off? So whenever you play any game, isn't that like, oh, I see what they did there.
Yeah. Are you
like,
like analyzing stuff constantly?
or
All the time, and more than that, and I say this with no shame, because everyone does this, and if they say they don't, maybe they don't. I don't know. I can't really call the whole world a liar, but um, when those "I see what you did there" moments usually is when you take out your notepad or your WhatsApp group with yourself and you write that down, because
Mm,
you're
right.
gonna put that in a game of yours eventually. And
mm. Okay,
right,
I
like,
see.
good game mechanics are there to be used. It's like this guy invented oil paints, and then he says,
Mm,
"No, only I can do oil paintings now." It's no, my friend.
That
Like,
makes more sense. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you invented a slap chop. Now everyone does slap chop, right? It's not yours.
yeah.
And so I love playing games, and I do that in my free time, and that is, at the same time, you do not turn off. But I think you guys, right, also play games, and
Yeah,
Yes,
you have the same mindset, I guess, right? I think this is normal for players to try to, because there is art and there is beauty in the game
yes,
mechanics.
yeah, that's true. So there's like when you play an awful lot, and if you come across something that we say, okay, this is really cool what they did there. Either because it's just in of itself a cool mechanic, or because it integrates the theme so incredibly well. That's yeah, that's always a great aha moment to me as a player. Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I know what you're talking about. I'm constantly comparing games and their mechanics to each other. I'm like, huh, I think this game did is better than this one. Also, I'm somebody who's playing a lot of video games. That's the same thing for me there, like comparing constantly stuff in the same genre. And sometimes it's a little bit annoying because you can't just basically like enjoy the game. You're like constantly thinking about they could have done this better. They could have changed this one, you know. Um, but yeah, I'm totally understand what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But maybe getting back to song, maybe for the last time, because you are here also with your newest game that you would like to present to us later on. But in terms of like a song, this final question would be: are you getting back into the game because you read about the newest update? Is this like the reason? Like, did you see what is coming? And you were not involved with that update, right? As far as I understood.
Yeah, this new update already does not have my direct involvement at all. The lead developer now, obviously, Michael Schnall is always involved, so you can always be assured that there is that quality and that vision, right? That Michael has, which is really important. But the lead developer now, Felipe Galeno, he's been working with us in this capacity for many years at this point, like almost 3 4 years. I don't know the exact amount, and he's super qualified. So I haven't seen the update yet. I haven't gone chasing for it. I trust so much that I'll just open the War Council. Has it been updated already?
No,
Not
not
yet.
yet. End of the month,
Okay, okay.
28th. But they did give a Vision in Flames just was it today or yesterday, I think.
Oh
Yeah.
wow.
And it's so there's two key things that I talked about. One is pro so neutral commanders will be more restricted in the terms of faction they can be played in, whether that means only a neutral faction or just in a few factions. That wasn't quite clear, I think. And they want to push attachments either through giving you discounts when you for certain attachments when you take a certain commander. I think there will be even a point pool just dedicated to attachments
Exactly.
or something, right?
You will have like 4 points that you can exclusively distribute among your attachments. So
Isn't that already in the tournament document?
There was something nobody seems to be playing with it
it was
because
like
It's
a
really
there's
strange,
yes.
right? And then all you have to do is swap the document it's in, and then now people will play. It's like we already gave the solution. It's fine.
never mind. I think with that people were worried that there's like at least two neutral 2 point attachments that are just incredibly powerful, and everybody was like worried. Okay, if we play with this, like they'll be in every list or whatever. I don't know if that would
Yeah,
had
it's a
happened.
balancing thing people are a little bit afraid of, but it's always the case with the updates. I think
Uh,
you know what we're talking about because you took the entire brunt of that. Like if something goes wrong, they're like, "Ah, God damn it, what are they doing?" And
I mean, that
so
must really turn you off the internet, right? If, like,
It does. You get a little bit jaded over time. So
mm,
in the beginning, you're super excited. Then you have to learn not to take it personally. Then you have to learn that even still, there's only so much you can read, and like until you start becoming either upset or indifferent, which is bad as
yeah,
well. You have to still have passion for the game always. And so I've learned through time the amount of internet I can absorb per week, which is very little.
true,
But
true.
there is a limit, and I do try to scour still, but obviously now for Malediction. Right, I read
Mm.
the Game Found page. I try to read the Discord, but um, nowadays I've actually been to the Song of Ice and Fire Discord and read some stuff now, because now that I'm not attached, I can read the trash talk and actually have a laugh, because sometimes
Great.
I know that people say this and they're not thinking, oh, let me attack the game designer. Not sometimes,
No.
99% of the time. And so, and sometimes it's just a joke, right? And we
Yeah,
have
yeah,
to
Yeah.
understand this. And when someone makes a meme, they're just getting the hive mind of, and compiling it into a joke. And so it's fine. You have to take it lightheartedly. And
yeah.
then the people who are very mad, they're usually mad at themselves.
Probably. I mean, there was one criticism that I sometimes came across that I just don't get. I mean, I kind of get what they try to say, but it's just so weird. That's claiming that the designers don't understand their own game. I'm like, that doesn't make to me that doesn't make any sense really, because obviously they understand their own game. They have different goals, and maybe some things don't work out, but
Yeah, and they're not
generally
hyper
speaking,
competitive,
it
you know.
doesn't make sense, like
Yeah.
as a
Yeah,
criticism from my
it's
perspective.
also, there are always more moving pieces. And so like players know one thing, they have access to only so much information. And then when you like close in and you go to like playtesters, they also have access to only so much information. A lot of times playtesters come to me upset, like, hey, I tested, I'm just gonna invent any unit, like, I tested free folk raiders this way and you published them the other way, and I never even saw the other one. Did you test this? And it's like, of course we did, in another control group. And and I
Yeah.
couldn't tell you, of course, because then this would affect what you think of the card that you were seeing at that moment. and
Exactly.
Mm,
and so, and once again, information is segmented and on purpose. And even people in the capacity of game designer and developer, they also have different things that they need to be aware of. And it's not that, oh, I'm keeping secrets from the game developer. It's
Mm.
that it would be bad for his job. Like if I told him, he's like, crap, why did you tell me this? Now I can't take it out of my head, right?
yeah,
And so it happens. And
Yeah.
and you can go up all the way to like the director who knows the licensing deals, and he knows what we can and cannot do in regards to game components.
mm,
You know what I mean? And this is not public. You
Yeah.
see what I mean? There's
yeah,
And so it's understandable that someone might feel that we don't know what we're doing. But if they were in my shoes, they would probably do the same thing. I wouldn't say, oh, they're gonna do worse. No, no, they'll probably do the same.
Yeah. And they're probably gonna cry a lot because they're not as, tough as you are.
No,
Um,
no, no. I cry as well. I cry resin, you know.
yeah, that's great. But yeah, let's transit over to the main topic of this video, because you also have transited to a
yeah.
new company, and that is Game Loot Studios. So, Fabio, can you give us a brief overview of Game Loot Studios itself? Where is the company coming from? Where is it located? What are you guys doing actually? Who are you?
Okay, so Loot Studios is actually a company from Brazil, which really impressed me because everything they do is in English. So I only found out eventually, um, they are mainly now known for their STL. Their main thing is they sell an STL subscription. They have a fantasy subscription, a sci-fi. If you're in the miniature hobby, you've most likely seen something about Loot Studios, even if just their name. But they have really, really, really high quality miniatures and terrain that you can print at home. You can buy. I think individual bundles as well. You don't need to subscribe, but if you do subscribe, once again, I don't know this all by heart. This, but there are really good deals that you can get. And there's also,
Mm.
if you go to their website, there's like a free mini pack, so you can sample that, like you can download a free STL file
Oh, right.
and
Okay.
see the quality. And their pitch, at least like a couple years ago, was that like since they can do 3D prints, they can actually do more realistic poses. and
Mm.
and so because injection molding limits you, so that's why they have this so-called like heroic scale and things like that in miniatures,
Right.
because you need the bigger head if you want the eyes to exist. Otherwise it's just going to be a
Right.
mush, right? Obviously injection molding has become better and better over time, but with the 3D printers, which have also become so much better, it they can do really really good quality, and they can also do the miniature in different scales. So actually when you
Hmm.
buy, I think it always comes in two scales. I'm not, don't take my word on this, like read the
Hmm.
website. And they also do like busts of the main characters. So a lot of people who like painting also, and all the miniatures come pre-supported. And I actually work sitting
All
next
right.
to the
Okay.
people with the at the
Cool.
support station. So I see them working all day and they're really, really meticulous. So like you know that your prints are like they have a very, very small error chance compared to
Right.
other 3D
But
printers.
that's yeah, that's pre-supported for a resin printer. When I
For resin. They also have
yeah.
stuff for filament as well, but
Oh,
I
Mm.
right.
think the
Okay.
miniatures are mainly for designed for resin,
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
the scenarios are
Terrain.
designed for filament.
All right.
Yeah, and I mean the flagship newest, project that you guys have. I think the GameFound campaign has launched a couple of months ago, right? If I remember
Yeah.
correctly, and it made like 500,000, which is amazing. And that is, of course, Malediction, your in-house game. And what exactly is your role, your involvement with this game? What is your part in designing this game, producing it? Like, what? How are you involved with this one?
Okay, so I joined Loot Studios specifically to work on Malediction and help them in their gaming branch of the company what they've just started. Like you said, they did over $500,000 in
Yes,
GameFound, which is really impressive for a first game, right?
indeed.
I'm super excited. I did not design or develop or influence this launch of this product in any way. I arrived just a couple months before launch.
Mm.
I'm here mostly now because of my experience with board games and especially miniature war games and Song of Ice and Fire to help them with future expansions and helping create a healthy ecosystem for the game.
Hmm.
And so they already have a very very good in-house design and development team. I have to shout out their names. They are amazing people, Danielle Pedersen and Nicole Lobu. They are amazing people, and they really are the backbone behind this game. And now that I've joined, I'm helping them really more implement systems of how to
Hmm.
develop things in schedule and so on, and bringing this expertise, a little bit of like how to keep everything homogenized, like quality control and so on, which are things I learned at CMON previously. And obviously I will have a little bit of my finger in the creative aspects of the game design, but that
Yeah.
is really not my focus. I really joined
Hmm.
because
Mm.
I played it before, like they showed me right during our negotiations, and I was like, okay, this game is really cool, there's a lot of potential here,
Hmm.
like for community building, for people really to get on board at a relatively accessible price point, and it's easy to learn, but there's so much depth, and the mixing of the deck building. And if you already play a Song of Ice and Fire, you know that there is a deck building aspect to Song of Ice and Fire, which is your faction, and then your commander build your tactics deck. But
Yeah.
here you can build basically any way you want, right? You choose a seeker, and that seeker
Hmm.
would be equivalent to your commander in a Song of Ice and Fire.
Hmm.
and then you build the deck around the faction of that seeker. So there's a lot of options, and your units are actually put in that deck. So
Hmm.
once again, the game is amazing, and that's why I'm here. I really trust their design team. Just to answer your question,
Hmm.
but I'd like to go on this tangent and explain about this mechanic, if you don't mind.
Yes, of course. Go ahead. That would be my next question. So, what is the hook of this game? I read in preparation that it is you guys invented. I don't want to say invented like this term MCG, a miniatures card game, right? So, is that
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Lots of people asked us like, "Oh, will there be like booster packs that you have to crack?" And like, no, it's none of the like, because in miniatures game you like to buy exactly what you want to know what you buy, right?
Yeah.
So all the spell cards and so on will come in the boxes, right? So that you don't have to worry about that. It's but it's an MCG in the sense that once you build your deck, you shuffle, draw 7 cards, and there is a deploy phase at the start of every round.
Mm-hmm.
Because if, let's say, you build your deck poorly and you draw and you have no creatures, you will not deploy in this round,
Hmm.
right?
Are there mulligans in the game? Just out of,
Yeah, yeah.
curiosity.
There's an
Okay,
equivalent of
wonderful.
Mulligan, and more than that, right? Your seeker stays at a seeker zone, which he can be deployed at any moment, like at any deploy phase.
Hmm.
And at the same time, if he dies, he goes back to your seeker zone. So you always have at least one unit, and it's your best unit, right? So
Great.
you don't have to worry about that. Um, and so it's really interesting, and there's a side effect to this that I found to be one of my favorite things to this game, because I think that deploying, like I deploy my whole army, you deploy your whole army, takes a long time, right?
Yeah.
And it's eating up game time,
True.
right? And even if we both are fast and we know what we're doing, it's still 15 minutes of game time, and it this dilutes it. And more than that, because there's the deployment zones, but you can also deploy to any model you have engaged, to any model you have on the battlefield,
Mm,
as long as they are not engaged themselves.
I
So right,
see. Okay.
so there creates this like chess situation where, oh, I don't want you to deploy in this side of the map next, so I need to engage your guy, right? So you have
Mm-hmm.
to be smart about it, and it's also not that you always have to deploy way back in the board and then start moving, right?
Yeah.
Units. So the round one is super fast. It's like I deploy 2 guys, you deploy 2 to 3 guys, we move, and then the next round begins, and that's the setup, and then we already deployed there. So there isn't
I
whole
see.
this problem that all war games suffer of the round one being just
Round one. Yes. Yes. Exactly.
right.
Yeah.
And this is not just Song of Ice and Fire, and it's not really in my mind it was never a problem, because to me it just was the way it was for all war games, and they fixed it. Like it's genius in that sense, and that's one of the things I enjoyed a lot. And there's a lot of smart design.
Yeah. So if a unit dies, does the card go back into your deck or is it
It goes
removed
to the
from the
discard
game?
pile.
Oh, and then once you ran through your deck, you reshuffle and you have
No,
to
if
draw
you
again or no?
actually finish your deck, you deck out and you lose the game.
Oh, oh, okay.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's
Interesting.
like Magic then as
Oh,
well, I guess.
I have an important
So-
question to ask. I have played Magic in the past. Is there some sort of scummy mill tactic that you can use to,
Uh, the deck is a 30 card deck, and the right now I don't think that is the main intent of the game at all.
Okay.
All
um,
right. Okay.
there is things that interact with the discard pile,
Okay, that's fine.
and you can
That's fine.
also banish certain cards, which is the equivalent in Magic to exile, like more or
Exiling stuff.
less. Yeah,
Mhm.
I don't like
Okay.
to make these equivalents because it's a different game, and
That is true.
it
Yeah.
is
That
not
is true.
Magic, right? It is
That is true.
Malediction, and it so. But yes, there are things that come from this, like the TCG genre. So it's interesting. Like I said, it's very fresh. It will get you by surprise for sure. like it will have those "I see what you did there" moments that we were talking about
Mm.
previously.
Right, right. No, that sounds really great. I'm also quite interested into the deck building mechanism. So, how do you get started when you build a deck? Like, is there like some sort of let's say you have to include a specific amount of cards from the start, and then you build more on top of that, or can you just go wild and do whatever you want with your deck?
So basically, the main restriction of deck building is you have to choose your seeker first, right?
Hmm.
And seekers can be of one faction or two factions currently, right? Of the pool that exists. So if you choose, for example, Thundersteps, he's of the primal blood. That means you can only use units and spells in your deck that are from the primal blood.
Oh,
Attachment
okay.
items, such as like special boots or gauntlets or whatever, they are factionless, so you can attach these to any deck. But also you have seekers such as Morida Umberland. She is both of the Legion of the Fallen and of the Conclave of the Spheres. So she's a dual faction. You can put
Hmm.
any amount of any of these cards of these factions in her deck. So,
Oh,
and
okay.
also there are some cards which are also dual faction, just as she is, and those cards can only be
Ah,
put on her deck, right? So
I see.
eventually, as the game expands, once we release another Legion Conclave Seeker, that could be in their deck as well. But right now, these cards would be exclusive to her. So, such as Call to Arms. Do you see there?
Hmm.
It
Right,
has two
right.
faction
Hmm.
icons on the top right.
Exactly.
Ah,
Now,
okay,
yeah, now
okay.
now I know what you're talking about. Yeah, that sounds very, very cool. Like, as far as I understood, and now that you have explained more about this game, I think this game is like for TCG players and for board gamers and something for tabletop war gamers as well. Like, it has something for everybody there, right?
Mhm.
As far as I remember, dice are involved as well. Like, this game is not only about cards and like fixed
Oh,
set, but you
it's a
also
war game.
roll
You're
dice.
gonna roll dice, right?
Great. Awesome. I love dice. I love dice. Can you explain like that mechanic? Like how are dice actually involved in this game?
Yeah. You're basically there's a two-hit roll,
Hmm.
right? And you're gonna roll your d20 and add it to your accuracy, which is the first stat there, the little sword,
Hmm.
and then you have to match or beat the defender's defense, and that's it. It's super streamlined, and I also like that because then you can focus on the tactical maneuvering. But if you score a hit, for example, if you get this Astaris Battlemaster, the first card here,
Hmm.
right? His damage is 4-2.
Hmm.
Basically, it means that if he scores a hit, he does 4 damage. Otherwise, there are no misses in Malediction. He
Oh, that's
scores a
awesome.
graze, and
Ah,
so
that's great.
Ah,
his
okay.
graze does 2 damage.
So you will always do some amount of damage, regardless of your dice roll.
Yeah, no pillow fights here. So that's
Nice.
very interesting, right?
That's the game for me actually, because I tend to roll horribly on charges and attacks and whatever you can make up.
Yeah, and you can plan your army around this. Like units who have better graze values, they may not have the best hit damage. So like you're not gonna get the 7-1 guys. You're probably gonna choose the 4-3 guys. If right, if knowing your
Yeah.
play style then.
Hmm.
Okay, but so there's no saving throws or anything. It's really just and one attack is one die roll, and that's it.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
interesting because I'm used to saving throws as well. Like I know that not all games have this. Like or
Right.
even if you play like D&D, right? There's not
Yeah.
going to be a saving throw, but it's just so streamlined. You don't even think about it, right? And the defender has agency usually through abilities, or other things, and not necessarily rolling the dice.
Okay, that's great. But is there still some sort of player interaction in, let's say, it's my turn? Is there some option for you to do something during my turn, like playing cards or triggering abilities, or
Yeah,
did? Hmm.
there are two types of spells: channel spells and swift spells. So, channel spells you can only play during your unit's activation and only once per activation, right? So I cannot do a bunch of
Okay.
channel spells. Usually they're a little bit stronger. Then you have the swift spells, which can be played at any moment as long as their
Hmm.
conditions are met, right? Or I guess not. You can play them at any moment and they'll just fizzle, right? But
Okay. Okay.
so it does really bring this like TCG aspect, and it's interesting that I've seen like playtest cycles now, and
Hmm.
when we bring players that came from a TCG background, they are very good at deck building, and they know sort of like when to save their echo, which is the resource of the game, to deploy
Hmm.
units, and when to cast spells. But they are very terrible at the geometry. You know that they're not good at positioning. They don't understand the power of movement in a unit. They don't understand how why six movement is so much better than four,
Oh yeah.
right?
Mm. Mm.
And and when you bring the people from wargaming backgrounds, they maneuver really well, and they're always fighting this uphill battle though because they have terrible decks. And because the knowledge that we have from traditional list building
Right.
does not transpose completely to deck building. So it's a very fresh challenge for all these audiences, right?
Hmm. Well, that's a very cool concept. I think I haven't seen something like that before, as far as I'm at least aware. So it is very intriguing, and it's very unique on the market right now. On top of that, you have all the STL file thing going on, and for me, an interesting aspect would be also to know, if you buy a box, of Malediction.
There's no miniatures in there apparently because
Right,
I
Fabio,
mean
where are the
this
miniatures?
is what you get.
Okay,
So
when you buy the box, this is what you get. There are standees for you to play out of the box, and if then as when you buy the box, you immediately gain ownership of the STL files,
There you
and
go.
then so you can so basically if you buy the Primal Blood faction box, you will have all the Primal Blood STL files.
okay,
I
so
didn't talk
it's
about
not
like
an extra purchase then. So that's
yeah, you get it. You're getting
it's
the
great.
it's imbued in the product, right? Like that
Great.
the STL file is taken into consideration because we know that miniature players want to play with miniatures, right?
Right.
But at the same time, we saw many people from like during their research before I joined, but which I saw the results,
Mhm.
and I agree that many people from the TCG environment or even from board games, they don't want to spend that much up front. So if we
Mhm.
were to put the STL, like print these and put them in the box, the it would become such a costly box. And also, we do not want to use injection mold because it will reduce the quality of the miniatures. Right now,
Oh,
these
okay.
miniatures
Mhm.
are really, really crisp, and we don't want to lose that just to injection mold stuff. So if you really want the game just for the game, you're still getting the STL files. You can like it's there's still value in them, but if but you can still play with just the paper, right?
Yeah, let, let's have a look at some of the miniatures then. So this is an image that I found with all painted up. I think these are painted by a Loot Studio painter or somebody commissioned by Loot Studio. And I guess these are representative of the four factions as well.
Yes, these are the current like main seekers of each faction.
Hmm. Okay.
All right. And so can you walk us through the factions and the Seekers? Maybe just a little bit of lore and maybe what makes them special in the game?
Just one last thing about the STL files. The cool thing is like units that you can have multiples of. There are multiple STL poses as well. So you're never gonna have twin brothers, right? But if you
Okay.
do want to have twin brothers, the files are yours, and you can print as many as you want, right? And I think
Mm.
that that's a plus side to the STL files, that once you own them, you can have as many Thunder Steps as you want, and they're yours. But
Well, one downside though is that you're kind of limiting your audience to people who have a resin printer, right? Unless, or have you partnered with like a printing service? Like I think in Europe there's Shapeways, I think they're called, something like this, where basically people can order from.
so I
Um,
know we are partnering with some. I do not have more
Mhm.
information on that because that's
all
not
right.
really my ballpark. But I also know that we are trying to connect people as well amongst themselves.
Right.
And also, I've been reading the Discord, and a lot of people have come from the board game community because of
Yeah.
the standees,
Right.
right? So they find, oh, okay, I can start this war game because it feels like a board game to them when they see the box.
Hmm.
Mm,
And then now they're interested and they say, well, I don't want to buy a 3D printer. And the community itself is helping each other out, because that's the really cool thing about like these early communities. It's already big. Like, I'm very impressed with the size of people on Discord. But it's usually when these communities start, just like Song of Ice and Fire 8 years ago, people
Right.
are really engaged, and a family starts brewing there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. 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 So again, coming back to those big, wonderful miniatures and the factions they belong to, like, could you just give us a brief overview of the factions that are involved in the game and how they differentiate themselves from each other? Like, they have different play styles, right, going for them.
Mhm.
Could you just explain them briefly to us?
Okay, so I'm gonna quickly explain. Just in Malediction, the world had this big apocalyptic event, and the world was broken. And these
Hmm.
factions are the remnants of what's survived, right? And they and you can find these special magical items called relics that take you that give you powers, very very powerful powers, because these relics are from the olden days. And the best place to find relics is in the middle of the world, where there's this magical mist called the Malediction, and that's
Mm,
where we fight. Okay, so
gotcha.
the theme of the game is seekers and their bands going to seek relics and bring them back to their factions, right?
Ah, now it all makes sense. Yeah, okay, gotcha. Hmm.
What makes a seeker special? Why, right? Why is Vorendal, the guy on our left here,
Hmm.
Vorendal, and why is he not just another nobleman or whatever? It's because he has a relic of his own. So in this case, he has a gem heart, which is an ancient relic from the past, which is like fused to him in a way, and he becomes more powerful. So and this relic that is tied to him is called a legacy. So when you choose your
Hmm.
seeker, which is your leader of your band, he comes also with another card, which is his legacy card, which is the power of this relic, and it's passive abilities generally,
Hmm.
right now, that are always in effect. So it's basically passive buffs to your army, which, so
Oh, I see.
once you choose him, it's not only if he's deployed or not, it doesn't matter. What really matters is that you
mm,
chose him, and then now he's giving your whole army a specific
Mm,
passive ability that is flavorful to him and his playstyle, right? And of course, when
right.
he joins the battlefield, he usually synergizes with his own legacy, right? Um,
Mm,
so Vorendau is one of the leaders of Legion of the Fallen. The Legion of the Fallen is um, a, a faction and a society that understands that death is a part of life, and they understand that bringing people back from the dead is just as good as living, right?
okay.
okay.
Don't
So
misquote me on this, but more or less.
Okay.
it's your undead faction basically, or vampire
So
lords or whatever.
I will not use any of those terms, but
Obviously not,
Fair
but
enough.
they have creatures that are called stitched, which are
Mm,
basically you stitch body parts together, and the souls also stitch together, right?
Oh,
And
interesting. Okay.
so
Yeah.
these are special creatures. They also have a lot of spirits and ghouls and ghosts, right? So far no vampires. And
Ah, okay.
and so Vorendau, and so their playstyle really is about paying a price to punish you, right? And
Mm,
they or bringing things back from the dead, or punishing you through curses, like removing action points from your units and things like this, right?
cool.
Vorendau's ability is really linked to some keyword units called Fallen, which are units that have fallen and risen back, and
Mm,
they and basically all his fallen units gain the persist ability, which means that if they take damage, lethal damage, I mean, and they would die,
mm.
instead of dying, they can remain with one health and activate.
Oh, that sounds annoying to deal with.
Well, it's not, you just activate again, I guess, right?
No, but it's very cool. It's very thematic. Yeah, I like the idea actually. Yeah.
He has
Um,
other abilities and so on, but I think this
mhm.
already shows a little bit of his
Yeah.
playstyle, right?
Right, right.
Um,
So what about the big guy next to him? He
the
looks quite intimidating.
the big guy is called Thundersteps, or that's what they call him, because no one speaks his language,
Hmm.
and they don't even know what species he is properly, right? But he is the leader of one of the seekers and leaders of the Primal Blood, and
Mm,
the Primal Blood is um, a bunch of wild tribes and people that live in a desolate region, and this region used to be inhabited by giants, and these giants died, and their blood sowed the land, and by drinking their blood of the giants you can gain powers, and by
mm.
using the mud that was the earth infused by the blood you can build special armors and gain special powers as well.
That sounds cool.
And so they they value strong leadership, and they believe in the ways of strength. And so when Thundersteps appeared, he's just so devastatingly powerful that they will just follow him regardless of if they understand him or not. They follow what they think is his will.
Oh, okay. So he's just casually destroying things, and then people are like, "Yep, that's the guy. We're gonna follow this one."
So basically, if his units charge, they gain bonuses. They gain, I think it's a damage bonus. Also, when
Mhm.
any unit in your army activates, you may discard a card for them to move an extra 3 inches. So
Mm.
even if
Oh,
you're out of echo, right, or resources to cast cards, you can still now spend them to help you move. And once again, you guys are seasoned war gamers. You know the
Yeah.
value of 3 inches is a
Oh,
lot,
yeah.
right?
That's quite
That's what he
powerful.
said.
That's quite powerful. Yeah. Yeah. Like, does he have like a giant gem as his eye? Is that correct?
Exactly, and that's his legacy, right? So
okay.
his it's I think it's called the Eye of the Storm. I'm sorry, once again, I'm still new to Lootsters. I don't
No
remember all the
worries.
names.
It's all fine.
I
Mhm.
think it's Eye of the Storm or Thunderstep's Eye or something like that. It's a gem, and he sees through this gem, and and once again, there's he has a very deep back lore, right?
Mhm.
Because the whole lore of the game was written by Tracy Hickman,
Oh,
and
Oh,
I
okay.
heard that
That's
name.
yeah. That's that's a household name there. I
yeah,
didn't know that.
and then
Wow. Okay.
like he handed it off to our lore team, and that's something I found impressive. Loot Studios has a dedicated lore team, so that's a lot of
Nice.
commitment, right, to quality in all aspects. And so the lore team has developed this a lot about Thundersteps, but it's a mystery. And so I will
Ooh.
not say much because I'm afraid that I don't know what is a mystery and what is not.
Yeah, don't worry. One thing that I find interesting, he looks like the brute force, right? Just go in there, punch people in the face, smack them down because he's so big. But at the same time, apparently, it's also about like speed, right? As you mentioned, you can just ditch cards to give him and his units extra movement. And that's kind of different from what these brute force characters quite often are in other games. So I
Hmm.
think yeah, that's pretty cool.
But he does
Yeah.
have like the Thundersteps himself
Mhm.
is the tankiest and most hard hitting unit in the game so far.
Makes sense. He's quite big.
All
Yeah.
right, he's huge, exactly.
He's thunder steps. I mean, yeah. What do you expect?
And I think he's also has the berserk ability. When he suffered half or more of his damage, he starts dealing additional damage, right? So he gets
Oh,
stronger.
Right.
okay. Okay. So you need to burst him down. You need to focus fire this guy down. So otherwise, will be in a lot of
Yeah,
trouble.
but I think he has like 18 or 20 HP, so it's
Okay.
really hard to drop him.
Oof. Okay. Wow. Maybe before we move on, actually, we forgot to ask you, how do we win a session of malediction?
Uh-huh. I'm sorry, I should have started with that. Yeah. So
Perhaps.
malediction is won once a player achieves 40 or more mastery at the end of the round, which is the equivalent of victory points, right? But
Mhm.
basically, you're mastering the mists of malediction. Um,
Mm.
and so, how do you gain mastery? Whenever you kill an enemy unit, the cost of the unit in Echo to deploy it, because
Mhm.
units have different costs to deploy, right? You gain that value in mastery. So if Thundersteps costs 10 Echo, if I kill him, I will get 10 mastery. So if I kill Thundersteps 4 times, I win the game.
You won. Okay.
Mm.
Gotcha.
Easy as that.
Right?
Also, the game has relics on the board, right? That's why we came to Malediction to seek these relics. And whoever ends the round unengaged next to an uncontested relic can claim it. You can pick a relic card which gives that unit a very powerful ability or effect,
Mhm.
and each relic also gives you 10 mastery. The game starts with 4 on the table,
Oh, okay.
so if you claim all 4 relics, you also win the game.
Okay.
Easy as that, right? And
So are relics for a game randomly drawn, or do people draft them,
so
or are
you
they
there's
based
a
on the
deck of
scenario?
15. You shuffle them and you reveal 4. And you can choose
Ah.
either one of the 4, or you can top deck, right?
Mm.
Mm.
All right.
And
Interesting.
when you reveal one of the 4, immediately another one is placed. Um,
Gotcha.
so, but the thing is, if I kill a unit with a relic, he drops it. And it's really on the battlefield, it's not really a relic. It's called a husk, because it's the husk of the previous relic holder. He
Oh,
died
okay.
and he
Okay.
became
Okay.
this thing made of stone.
Uh,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
okay. I think I saw that in this image, right?
Yeah, at the
There's in
back
the
there.
background, there's like four.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
around the
Okay.
die.
I guess they are the husks, right? Yeah, these things here.
Next to the
And
All
dice.
right.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
Cool. Cool.
Okay.
Well, it's quite interesting. So if you pick up a relic, you are quite powerful. But if you are getting killed, you drop that, and your opponent might get it now, and then come back hitting hard.
so more than that, you drop that and you lose the 10 mastery you had for holding it,
Oh.
right?
Oh, it's not permanent. I
So
see.
Okay.
so
Okay.
there
So you've
is
got
this
permanent and
push and pull.
non-permanent.
The only thing that's
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
permanent is if you kill units, then you gain that mastery forever.
Gotcha. Wow.
And
So that.
also, when he dies, he becomes a husk. So the relic you got goes to the bottom of the deck, and the person can choose another one that fits their strategy, right? If
Mm.
you chose a relic that's
Okay.
a bow, and I kill you with thundersteps, I don't want the bow with the thundersteps.
That's lame.
I want a bigger hammer,
Exactly. No, that sounds that's very cool. I like the idea behind it because it gives you
It's
a lot
very
of
deep.
tactical options. That's very cool. That's very cool. Maybe to close down our presentation of the characters, we have two more left. Just go over them as well, so because they deserve the attention.
Yes. So the next one is Sigrid Andravos. She is a seeker from the Order of the Shattered Throne. These are the guys who believe they know how the world was before shattering, and they're trying, and there's this throne that was shattered, and they want to restore this throne to itself, and the throne is a relic as well, right? Or something like in this
Oh.
sense. And so they believe that things must be put back in order, be it the nice way or the hard way. So there, it's really interesting. They have this unit that is a griffin rider, and but since they are the order, griffins are unnatural beings and they're not meant to exist, right? So
Mm.
what they do is they capture these griffins and they cut the wings. And
Oh,
so
Oh,
the
okay.
griffin rider is basically a glorified cavalier, right?
Oh, I see. Oh, that's really grimdark also.
yes.
Like,
So I love that. I love that. And I think that's really interesting. So they're not the good guys per se, and they're not,
yeah,
like the good bad guys. There's a nuance which is interesting, and
right.
they can be quirky, but at the same time not like um cartoonish. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, of course.
And
Okay.
Sigrid, she is basically, her legacy is the shield that she's carrying that cries blood, which is the
Hmm.
shield of Andravon. And basically, I think the shield always chooses the next wielder. And when
Hmm.
like the wielder dies, they hurry to get the shield back and take it back to the order, and he chooses another wielder, right?
Cool.
I think that's her backstory. And so she's really focused on the protecting. So
Hmm.
I'm gonna explain really like her herself. She has an action that she can spend to heal people. She also gives armor buff around people in 6 inches and things
Mm.
like this. But her shield, the legacy, basically at any moment of the game when you suffer damage, you can discard a card to ignore up to 3 of the damage.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
And she has a
That sounds
second
fun.
ability on the shield as well, which is unrelated, so it can even trigger out of other effects. But
Hmm.
whenever you would suffer damage from an attack, but you suffer 0, your guy gets to attack back.
Ah, let,
Okay.
let me make an educated guess. This is your favorite seeker, right? Because she reminds me a lot of the Baratheons, which was your favorite faction, like hitting back, revenge theme going on, protecting stuff.
So that's really interesting. Um, when I started, I went straight to her. But my
Yeah.
favorite
Okay.
seeker is actually the next one, which is Polinar.
Okay.
And he's from the Conclave of the Spheres, which is a conglomerate of magicians and schools of magic, and
Hmm.
basically they found ways to tap into this magic of the malediction through other means, and they controlled this other mean called the liastrum, which is this magical essence. That's what's under him there that he's controlling.
Mm.
And basically he's your like trickster mage. So his spells, when you cast them, they deal extra damage. He can cast 2 channels in during his turn, his activation, instead of just one as well. So
Hmm.
he can cast many powerful spells. And so I almost feel like, I don't know if you played Song of Ice and Fire 8 years ago when you could Cersei bomb people.
Oh, yeah.
I
Yeah.
Yes.
I almost feel he's like the Cersei bomb, right?
Oh,
And
geez. Okay.
since the conclave of the spheres are really focused on like meta magic and the study of magic itself, they
Hmm.
also have spells that you can cast to counter enemy spells. So they have this very Lannister feel, and I'm really enjoying that now. And
Oh
so
boy, oh boy. So
yeah.
you also counter spelling stuff, right? You like canceling
Hmm.
spells.
And they have a
Ah.
lot of ranged attack. So you can make,
Ooh.
once again, Malediction is played on like 30 by 30 inches. So the playing
Mhm.
field is very small. So
Yeah.
you can't really do a gun line in like the old Warhammer days. Like,
Yeah.
but
Hmm.
I sort of like playing this like gun line style
Uh-huh.
where I basically only put ranged guys, and when you try to hit one of my guys, all the other ones run away and shoot at you, right? And
Wow, that's very scummy. Oh my God, Fabio. No, that sounds very interesting. So all of them
Yeah.
have like a distinct play style, different abilities and relics and legacies. That's very cool. I really like the ideas so far of this game and
Is
the concepts.
Yeah, and you talked about, your favorite playstyle being like the shooty faction, but I mean it's spells, it's not really shooting, right? So I guess terrain doesn't really help with, hiding, or because you've
Ah,
got some pretty awesome terrain pieces right there. So
Yeah.
so terrain is super relevant in this game as well. So whenever you choose your deck, you can also choose your terrain, and then you choose a set of terrain. So you choose either like the bloody giant terrain set, and then you get all the pieces. You cannot choose various ones, but you
oh,
choose
okay.
one and your opponent chooses one.
Hmm.
But it does not have to be the one from your faction. So if you're playing with the primal blood but you chose units that move less, you might want to choose the order of the shattered throne terrain, because that
Hmm.
gives you movement buffs, right? But so I choose a terrain set, you choose one, and then we alternate placing them until the map is
Hmm.
full. And obviously, there are like rules for placement, blah blah blah. But it's pretty fast,
Okay.
and each terrain set has a special ability. And I'll explain all four of them. I think it's just better. But also,
Okay.
they block line of sight and movement. But spells usually don't require line of sight. So if the spell says does deal 2 damage to a unit, caster of the spell is you, like the faction, and not
Gotcha.
the activated unit necessarily, right? But so the primal blood terrain is the giants that died, right? And they
That's so
turned into
cool.
stone and they're still bleeding forever. So this
That,
blood
that that is grim dark as hell, by the way.
Yes.
That reminds me of Dark Souls and all this, dark fantasy setting stuff. That's very cool.
Yeah, and it's very unique, and you cannot ever injection mode this. It's impossible to do this piece of terrain in injection mode. It can only be an STL file 3D printed. So that's another
Hmm.
advantage as well, because of the shapes.
Gotcha.
But what's really interesting is, no, sorry, the rule of this terrain is if you step on the blood or if you start your activation on the blood, you suffer damage. And this applies to any unit in both armies, right? The terrain is not yours, it's the game terrain, right?
I see.
So can you push or pull units?
Yes.
Are there okay, then that makes
Okay.
And
sense.
a lot of primal
Interesting.
blood units, like the Cabra Mauler, he can knock back. So if he hits you, he pushes you 4 inches. You also have the Conclave of the Spheres. They have the Liastrum Weavers who can push and pull you using the mana Liastrum.
Hmm.
So yes, flying
That's
units
cool.
do not suffer damage from the blood on the floor.
Too bad for the Griffin Riders. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right?
bad for the
Right?
Griffin
Why did
Riders.
you do that? Why did you
They
do that?
could have been so good, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's
And
just
the next
so
one is
sad.
the Conclave of the Spheres terrain, which is the one on top there. And
Mhm.
it's basically a Liastrum vortex. So, and these ones you're seeing are the large ones, right? But there are the smaller ones as well. And if you're on top of any of this terrain, if the activated unit is on top of this terrain, your spells cost one less echo to cast.
Okay,
Okay.
So you
Okay.
want to step there to cast your spells, right?
Makes
Um,
sense. Yeah.
especially if you're casting two spells a turn, right?
exactly, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
When you the other one is the Astaris Pathways, which is this archway here, which is the one
Hmm.
from the Order of the Shattered Throne. And whenever you start any move action, even if you're doing move, if you start both, right? If you can move from one terrain piece to another, maybe you gain +2 inches on your movement.
So that's quite strong.
Yeah. Remember, it
That's quite
applies to
powerful.
all players, right? So it's strong
Mm.
for everyone, right?
Right.
And
I mean, this gives me quite a bit of like Osgiliath vibes from Lord of the Ring, like this
Hmm.
Kinda, yeah.
ruined city, or yeah.
Very cool.
And finally, we have the Death Shroud Mire, which are these like undead twisted trees. And basically, they have two abilities. The first one is they block line of sight unless you are standing on them,
Hmm.
Ah, okay.
right? And because they create this shadow verse, whatever. And
Yeah, yeah.
the second thing is any unit with the ambush keyword considers
Hmm.
these terrains as deploy zone.
Oh,
Oh, that's cool. Okay. So terrain placement is very key in this game as well. You can do a lot of things with terrain. Yeah, can
Yes.
already tell. I
And
also
if
like the
you,
design of that terrain piece. It reminds me of H.R. Geiger's design from Aliens a little bit. So there's some twisted things going on with those trees, and they look like they're from not this world and stuff. That's very cool. Yeah.
there's one more thing that I wanted to actually show. Thank you, you've been so generous with your time. But um, I looked at the mod that you've created, and I've been for Tabletop Simulator, and I've been thoroughly impressed. So everybody can just subscribe to it, right? If you have Tabletop Simulator, please go ahead, have a look.
Yeah.
And it has this built-in tutorial. So if you say, okay, this is my first game, then basically just like in a video game, it basically, guides you through where everything is,
Yeah.
and tells you how to interact, right? Um, so how does the health bar work, right? And it asks you to reduce the damage. Right? Oh no, that's actually wrong. I was here, right? Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Just keep clicking it, going down. Thank you. Blah 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 blah. Then you've got this thing for ranges, and it just walks you through the entire process. And I think this is so cool. I'm not sure I've seen that in any tabletop simulator mod
Yeah, it's very impressive
yet.
indeed.
So that's the first one I've seen it in. So great job there. And I think I mean, I don't know how much of it you did build, but you did build some of it, right? You put in the assets um, and so on.
yeah. I did contribute to this. I uploaded the assets. That's the easy part, right? I'd like even to thank you because you gave me a lot of tips on how to do the mod. A lot of it was really inspired by A Song of Ice and Fire. So the range on the units, having a little button to say it was activated, being able to interact with these things, which in real life you would just quickly do next to you with cards, counters,
Mm,
tokens. But
Yeah.
on TTS, if you try to do it exactly like that, it becomes such a terrible experience. So
yes.
um, playing on TTS is always slower than real life, but these things help reach it a little bit closer to what real life speed of game is, right? And so what actually happened is I s- I spoke to you and a couple of other people who I know that can do mods and understand about mod making on TTS, and I saw that I was way over my head in this project and I was way too ambitious. I actually found a guy who did a mod for Sorcery TCG, and he is really good. And he's from Brazil, actually. And
Hmm.
we spoke, and he gave me a few other pointers, and then in the end, I just talked to him, and we agreed that he would basically finish this project, right? So I'm really happy with the way it is because I gave the briefing, but not much more than that, right? I did not script a line of this. This is all esoterical to me and magical. So
But no, the mod is quite impressive. We have taken a look into it, and we encourage everybody who's watching the video right now to try it out because it's for free. We will put the link down below into the video description, so you can go ahead. If you have Steam, if you have the Tabletop Simulator, you can just add the mod to the TTS and then try it out for yourself. Play a game with your buddy, try out the game, learn the fundamentals of the game, the rules, and make your own opinion about this game for yourself. But so far we were quite impressed. We really enjoyed what you have presented to us today, and what you were able to talk about today, and all the great ideas that are coming together in this game. So again, it's somebody, there's something for everybody in there. If you're playing TCGs, playing board games, or skirmishes or war games, try it out. I think you will enjoy it. Maybe to close out the video, the last thing, or maybe the second last thing, Fabi, where people can get this game? Like, is the late pledge still open, or will this game hit retail in foreseeable future? How exactly can they get their hands on this game?
So late pledge, I think, has just closed. I think like
Ah,
yesterday is
damn.
so close. Um, we will be at Adepticon, and I'm not sure. Like once again, I this is out of my ballpark, so I can't really promise if we'll be selling there or not. But most likely, there we'll have more informations, and we'll be announcing more about retail and so on. We are already partnering up with some smaller retailers, and
Great.
there's more things that I cannot talk about. So, of course, if we're releasing a new war game, or as they call it, a miniature card game,
Mhm.
of course, we're talking about a game that is planned to exist for many years and has to be easily accessible and available to everyone. So right now we're still fulfilling Game Found, and I think we'll be delivering everything on time and super fast, which I was also really impressed. Like the guys at Loot Studios know what they're doing, you know. And they
Great.
know like the back end of stuff really really well. So and when there will be news about how to purchase the game, beyond just the Game Found campaign, I will let everyone know, and there will be a hard marketing effort as well. So hopefully, our ads will reach you as well, so you'll know. But also, if you really want to keep in touch, check out the Malediction website, the Loot Studios website. Also, we have a Malediction Discord, which I can send to you guys. Maybe if you guys want to put it on the description of the video.
Oh, of course. Of course, we
Yeah,
can do that.
sure.
No problem.
Thank you very much. And we'll be waiting for you there. The design team is there, and they interact with everyone. We have a really big community. We have our first YouTubers beginning already as well. So um,
Nice.
and
Nice.
I'll
That's great.
so once we have more information, I'll let you guys know for sure.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Fabio. And the last question would be, do you have already like plans for the future? Like, for example, competitive play, like in terms of organized play, because it is a TCG hybrid. I can also envision like foil cards, collectibles, and stuff like that for the future. Is that something that you guys are planning to do?
That's a hard question because
Okay, I got you there.
whenever I don't know what really to answer, but I'll just say not necessarily or exclusively to the
Mhm.
things you commented, but we do
Oh,
have plans, right?
okay. 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 Gotcha. So it's a great time to get into the game then. You heard it yourself from Fabio Curry. Fabio, thank you very much for your time. We really appreciate it. We really are happy to see you again after such a long time. We will miss you dearly in the song community, but we will enjoy your newest project, and that the project of Gamelit Studios. Um, Thank you very much. And Malediction, guys, try it out for yourself on TTS. Take a look at the GameFound campaign, and of course on the homepage. And thank you much for watching the video today, guys. See you around. Have a great day. Bye bye, everyone.
Bye bye.
Bye.